Okay, let's talk about this. We've all heard that phrase in the gym, right? The mind-muscle connection. And, for some people, it sounds like some kind of weird, mystical bro science. But for others, it's like the secret ingredient for getting real results. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to look at the actual science behind it because guess what? It's not magic, it's neuroscience. And understanding it might just be one of the most powerful and honestly underused tools you've got to go from just moving weight to actually building quality muscle. So here's the game plan. First, we'll nail down what the mind-muscle connection actually is. Then, we'll dive into some fascinating brain science and what I like to call your brain's hidden sixth sense. After that, we'll get into a super important idea, internal versus external focus. It's a game changer. Then we get to the really good stuff, 5 practical, no-nonsense ways to build your connection. And finally, we'll tie it all together so you know exactly how to use this stuff in your very next workout. All right, section 1. So what are we really talking about here? Well, it's all about the massive difference between just being a weight mover and becoming a true muscle builder. Believe me, they are not the same thing. And this whole concept, it's the bridge that gets you from one to the other. Let me ask you this. You ever do a set of bench presses and feel it way more in your shoulders and triceps than in your actual chest? Or maybe you've done lat pull downs and your biceps feel like they're on fire, but your back feels like it did nothing. Yeah, that frustrating feeling of just going through the motions, where you're finishing the reps but you're not feeling it in the right place. That is the exact problem that the mind-muscle connection is here to solve. So what's it mean at its core? It's simple, really. You stop thinking about the weight and you start thinking about the muscle. Your whole goal shifts. Instead of just thinking, okay, I gotta move this dumbbell from point A to point B, your new goal becomes, I'm gonna make my bicep contract as hard as humanly possible. And that contraction is what's gonna move the dumbbell. You're focused on the internal process, not just the external result, through every single inch of every rep. Think of it this way. Your brain is kind of like the main office of a construction site, and it's sending out a work order. Now, a lazy, unfocused signal just kind of yells, hey body, lift this heavy thing. And your body, which loves to be efficient, just recruits whatever muscles are strongest or closest to get the job done fast. But a focused signal, that's precise. It's a detailed memo that says, all right, biceps, I want you to be the star of the show, squeeze, contract, and control this entire movement. You're basically becoming the foreman on your own job site, telling the crew exactly where to work. Now, I know this might still sound a little out there, but it is totally grounded in some really cool and very real neuroscience. So let's pull back the curtain for a second and see what's actually going on in your brain and your muscles when you do this. So here's the deal. When you decide you're going to do a bicep curl, your brain's motor cortex zaps an electrical signal down your spinal cord to these things called motor units inside your bicep, telling the muscle fibers to contract. But here's what most people miss. This isn't a one-way street. It's a constant conversation. Your muscles have these tiny little sensors in them that are constantly sending information back to your brain. They're reporting on their position, how much they're stretching, how hard they're contracting. It's this non-stop stream of data. And this whole incredibly sophisticated feedback system, well, it's got a name, and it's the absolute key to this whole discussion. Just like this paper from Brain Communications points out, it all comes down to something called proprioception. You can think of proprioception as your body's sixth sense. It's how you can touch your nose with your eyes closed, right? Or walk upstairs without staring down at your feet the whole time. It's basically your body's internal GPS. So when you actively focus your mind on one specific muscle, you're essentially turning up the volume on that feedback loop. You're telling your brain, hey, listen up, ignore all the other chatter for a second and pay really close attention to the signals coming from the pecs. That simple act of focusing improves the quality of that two-way street, which leads to better muscle fiber recruitment. And that is the science behind the mind-muscle connection. Okay, so we get it. We need to focus, but what we focus on, that makes a massive difference. And this leads us to a really, really important idea from sports science, the difference between an internal focus and an external focus. Let's break this down super simple. An internal focus is all about thinking about your own body parts. So during a bench press, an internal thought would be, squeeze my chest muscles together. An external focus is about thinking about an object or the result of what you're doing. For that same bench press, an external thought would be, drive the bar up to the ceiling as fast as possible. See the difference? One is about the feeling, the other is about the task. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. A big 2021 meta-analysis looked at all the research and found a clear winner for just raw performance. When your goal is to lift the most weight, or jump the highest, or run the fastest, an external focus is, hands down, better. Why? Well, because when you think about driving the bar up, you kind of get your conscious mind out of the way and you let your nervous system just do its thing, recruit everything it needs to get the job done efficiently. It's like letting an athlete just play on instinct. But, and this is a huge but for anyone who's trying to build muscle, if your main goal isn't just performance, but muscle growth, hypertrophy, the roles completely reverse. If you want to isolate a muscle and make sure it's getting all the stimulation it needs to grow, that's when a deliberate internal focus is king. This is the mind-muscle connection in action. It's not about being efficient. It's about making that one target muscle work as hard as it possibly can. That's what triggers growth.
All right, enough theory. Let's get practical. This connection is a skill. It's not something you're born with. You have to train it, just like anything else. So here are 5 super effective techniques you can literally start using today to build a stronger link between your mind and your muscles.
First up, slow down your tempo. Seriously, you can't feel a muscle if you're just throwing weight around. Try a 3-second negative, the lowering part, on your next set of curls. Just count it out. You'll feel those muscle fibers in a whole new way. Number 2, and this is the big one, lighten the load. You gotta check your ego at the door, man. If the weight's too heavy, you can't focus. Drop the weight by 20, maybe even 30%, and just own that perfect form. Third, pause and squeeze. At the very top of a movement, like a curl, hold it for a solid 1 or 2 seconds, and just squeeze that muscle as hard as you can. Fourth, and this sounds silly, but it works, use touch. While you're doing a leg extension, literally put your hand on your quad. That physical feedback sends a super strong signal to your brain. And fifth, train one side at a time. Doing things like a single-arm dumbbell row lets you pour all your mental energy into one spot, making it way easier to connect.
And this just hammers home the number one mistake I see that kills the mind-muscle connection: ego lifting. Look, if the weight is so heavy that your only thought is just get this thing up, then your body is in survival mode. It's not thinking about isolating your bicep. It's thinking about not getting crushed. You can't focus on one muscle when your whole body is just screaming for help.
So let's bring it all home. We've got these 2 powerful tools, right? Internal focus and external focus. The secret to really leveling up your training isn't about picking one over the other. It's about knowing when to use each one. It's all about using the right mental tool for the right physical job.
This chart lays it out perfectly. If your goal for a lift is pure strength or performance, you're gonna use an external focus. This is for your big, heavy lifts like squats or the bench press. For heavy squat, think drive the floor away from me. For heavy bench, think push myself away from the bar. But if your goal is muscle growth or hypertrophy, you switch to an internal focus. This is perfect for your isolation stuff, your accessory work. On your bicep curls, think squeeze the bicep like you're trying to crush a walnut. On your lateral raises, think about feeling just the side delt do all the work. So let's recap the big stuff. What do you need to remember? Number 1, the mind-muscle connection is real. It's a science-backed skill, not just gym chatter. Number 2, you can get better at it. It's learnable. It just takes practice, like anything else. Number 3, if your main goal is building muscle, this is one of the best tools you have for making every single rep more effective. And finally, number 4, use the right focus for the right goal. An external cue for strength and an internal one for growth. That's smart training. At the end of the day, it just goes to show that lifting is as much a mental game as it is a physical one. The quality of your focus has a direct impact on the quality of your results. So the question isn't just about how much weight you can move, it's about how well you can use your mind to build the body you want. So the next time you hit the gym, don't just lift the weights. Are you ready to train your mind?